The Landlady, the Actor, and the Idiocy. A tragic tale. I do not exaggerate for effect. I can but witness. I was in Vancouver, living as an artist. I had a nice little suite in a nice area given me by a nice couple. My dad had been helping them, hence I get the place for free. Hi diddly dee, an actor's life for me, indeedy. The couple are Ralph and Karen. She is maybe 55, he's a bit older. They have a beautiful place, and my little basement suite was more than I could have expected. Perfect situation. Well, almost perfect. I work out early in the mornings and was returning from the gym through the backyard to get to my private door. The back of the house is a lot of glass, and as I passed through the yard, Karen walked out of her bedroom stark naked. She literally did a Lucille Ball, arms first flung up and then brought snapping back down to cover her breasts and pubes while she crouched and scuttled back into the room. I was not looking directly at her, though I obviously saw everything, so I decided after much deliberation that I could play like I was too focused on something, the grass, I don't know, to notice the impromptu full frontal happening only 10 feet and a pane of glass away. And it was fine. We neither subsequently mentioned it, and life got on. This was in the morning of my second day there, by the way. Could have made things a bit awkward, but managed to skate on through. Now, I was gone for a couple of days a few weeks later. Karen had left a plate of cookies for me when I got back. Very sweet. We ran into each other maybe every fourth day. Once she was walking the dog, I was walking home. Once I was smoking out on the back porch when she was throwing a ball with the dog. In all, it was almost as if I did not have anyone living right through the wall. It was very nice. But I could not help but think things like, here I am, single in the big city, with this nice place to maybe bring a good time to. And your average fellow might have been able to do so, but I, unfortunately, am not average, especially in my ability to elevate any woman I find even vaguely attractive up onto a pedestal of immediately intimidating proportions. I have an agent in Vancouver, Murray, and his birthday and party were the next week. He's a nice and funny man. I eagerly accepted the invitation to attend, as I know very few people in Vancouver, and his house is literally 1 block from where I was staying. Meaning I can drink. Forget crawling home. I could pull myself along the sidewalk with my lips and tongue if it comes to it. It did not, though that might have in some ways been better. There is, you see, a woman who works at Murray's agency, name of Joanne, front desk. She's a bit stark, a bit cool, a bit officious, and I want her with every fiber of my perpetually adolescent being. First day I walked in to sit and wait for my appointment, and normally you think about how you want to present yourself and your stuff and staying on point, being professional. I spent that first 10 minutes in the building wanting to rub my face into her skin. I was pheromonally assaulted. It was like a good old-fashioned lynch mob, with her sexuality finding the tree and my free will with its hands tied behind its back. Never changed. Not sure why. It definitely wasn't because I worked my way into her good graces or had a witty line or something. No, the closest I ever got to chatting her up was once she said, "You can go in now." I somehow tore my eyes away from the hem of her skirt, which had at that point been on the verge of exposing another half-inch of her thigh, fumbled my briefcase into my hand, tripped elegantly over the leg of the chair I was sitting in, and managed a half-gargled, "Thanks, thanks." And this was the high point of my interactions with her. Until, that is, the night of the birthday party. Some people shouldn't drink. I walked in and she was doing the worm on the kitchen floor, skirt hiking up and her pelvis thrusting relentlessly into the air like Old Faithful on time lapse, like fists at a Pearl Jam concert. Everybody else had the consideration to look the other way. Nobody in their right minds would take advantage of someone who so clearly can't hold her liquor. Hell, she couldn't hold her own breath. And this was 2 drinks in, and it only got worse because she wasn't going to stop pouring. The look on her face was not just, come hither. It was, come here, baby, and come on my face. That raunchy, leering, I want to fuck dirty and love it savage glee that some people allow themselves to feel, though it is rarely actually presented outside of the bedroom or the porn trade. Certainly, I had never seen it displayed in real life before, which tells you all you need to know about my sex life. You'd think my reverence of her or just some normal sense of propriety would have kept what happened from happening, but no, that would require me to have a moral bone in my body, it seems, or to have less of a chemical reaction to some people, or to maybe think for just 1 minute, as everyone else at Murray's was able to do. Maybe they had all just seen it before, this jaw-dropping transformation from ice queen of the reception desk to gyrating curb slut. I mean, in retrospect, I think that must be the case. I do recall wondering vaguely if I was the only one seeing this Ripley's Believe It or Not style event. The others in the kitchen casually sipping their Cosmos and discussing the devaluation of the dollar as this smoking hot babe devalued herself on the Spanish tiled floor. I used the excuse of helping her up to get my hands on her, and she looked me square in the eyes and said, "I want you." And despite evidence that she would have said the same thing to any man from Stephen Harper to Stephen Hawking's, I chose to believe she had somehow been harboring the same deep desire towards me as I had been her, and was now only alcoholically emancipated enough to admit it. That same state to which I began aspiring immediately, pouring 4 shots of Cuervo down my insecure maw in the space of a minute. I'm not sure of the details. I know we danced. I know her hands strayed to all the right places on my groin. I know people were covertly, then overtly watching. I know also that my relationship with my agent seems to have undergone a bit of a shift. I definitely know Joanne has not spoken to me, has not acknowledged my existence in any fashion, and that is as it should be. Finally, I know we groped our way to my little suite, literally a block from the party, and that I was so happy I should have known something was up. We stumbled in through the yard, down the stairs, and we were sucking so much face. I still don't know how we even found the right house, let alone how we made it down the stairs without breaking a leg. I struggled with the lock because it is a little finicky, and also because it's hard to wield a key properly when you're holding it inside someone else's pants. When the door finally opened, we spilled into the apartment like an Exxon Valdez mishap, shedding what little clothing we had left on our way down the hall to the bedroom and what I was anticipating to be a fair-sized slice of heaven on earth. Thus it was that we were naked when I threw open the door to the bedchamber and dropped to my knees in worshipful ecstasy, full flinging my face into her pelvic area. In retrospect, I should have suspected something, but I'm obtuse like some triangles. The cookies, the late-night dog walk random encounter, the ball throwing with the dog when Ralph happened to not be home, the pleasant smile, the easy laugh, all of which I responded to in like-minded innocence, or so I thought. I recall now having mentioned the party, along with a joke about stumbling home, what could definitely be interpreted by Karen as an indication of intended drunkenness, and so I now realize as a sort of intimated invitation, which would explain her naked presence in my bedroom, sprawled abed in what I assume started as an enticing position, but which, by the time Joanne and I had grunted, kicked, thumped, and humped our way into the room, was more a desperate scramble for some sort of cover, one that I only became aware of through the sounds of alarm that muffled their way into my crotch-nuzzling position, the strangely sudden loss of interest by Joanne, then the heady sensation of being flung face first to the floor as both women began a mortified scramble to retrieve clothing. which, as Karen had left hers in her own house, became a bit of a tug-of-war over the few pieces of lingerie Joanne had shed in the doorway. I was a bit addled by booze, lust, minor head trauma, and mortified paralysis. I basically huddled in the fetal position on the floor while the two naked ladies scrambled around the room and each other like a couple of ping-pong balls on crack, alternately cursing and apologizing, occasionally landing a kick on my prostrate form, and finally making their respective exits. I did not look up. Oh, I did look up as they went. Joanne in panties, one stocking, her shirt half on as she grabbed her shoes and my jacket and ran out the door. Karen in an ill-fitting bra, Joanne's pants tied haphazardly around her waist, and trailing a bedsheet as she edged through a previously unused door into her side of the house. I left. It took a week, during which I avoided my room like a leper colony. Karen could not actually kick me out, as it was implicitly understood that neither of us could ever mention it to each other, let alone her husband. But she didn't have to, clearly. On the second day, I found a small pile of clothing on the doorstep, washed and folded. I took these to my agent's office in a bag and placed them on the end of Joanne's desk. She never looked up from her computer. I skulked out like Satan on a Sunday. She still has not looked at me. For my part, I have stopped coming into the office, something I was doing mostly, truth be told, to ogle Joanne. Email takes care of most things quite nicely. I think Murray suspects something, though it could be nowhere near the horrid truth. He has never brought it up. I never got my jacket back. I suspect it was burned in a hoodoo ritual.